your study of propaganda is important not only to you, but to me and to the world.
The exhibition looks at propaganda, power and persuasion, primarily over the last 120 years, and it's primarily state propaganda, because the state's really the greatest exponent of propaganda. We've got 6 themes in the exhibition. We look at the origins of propaganda, we then go on to look at the propaganda that's used to create and bond nations. The exhibition then moves into the section on the enemy, then moves into a section on war, which is probably the largest section in the exhibition, and then we move into a section which looks at health propaganda, and called the last section Today, and we wanted to look at the role of social media and what impact that's having. What we wanted to do was really explore propaganda, taking a neutral definition of it, and think about the way that states sort of try and persuade their citizens in times of war, in times of peace, to do things they might not want to do, or try and reinforce current behaviours. We were also interested in exploring the sort of propaganda of everyday life. So particularly in things like creating and nation bonding, it's actually about the sort of the propaganda that follows you home. So you put your coin in your pocket that's got the Queen's head on it, and that reinforcement of the notion of us being a democracy, of being a monarchy, and actually all those things that means. I think the most powerful propaganda plays into existing attitudes. It uses things that people recognise, that they can identify with. It's not always about the sort of iconic stuff, I think. I think it works most effectively if it is part of organised campaigning. And you really see this in times of war with any society, that the huge scale of the exercise. We've got some papers that we quote in the exhibition that talk about in 10 months in World War I, the Committee for Enemy Propaganda produced something like 40 million items. This is a vast amount of material that you, at that time as well, also sort of, I think, beggars belief, really. It needs to get everywhere, play into existing attitudes. It probably needs to be fairly accurate. It acknowledges the sophistication of the recipient, because if it just actually assumes that you're going to be easily taken in, that's not going to work either. So there's a whole load of criteria. I think I do, actually. Whether they're capable of reaching, their required audiences, but I think that what social media has done is open up communication channels and opened up big sort of communications world in a way that it simply wasn't before. It's much easier for people to communicate, but they might not have all the kind of tricks of the trade and the tools around them to make their communication successful. I think I'd like them to be amazed, in a sense, at the scope and scale and range and breadth. I think a lot of people have come to the exhibition potentially expecting us to be looking at the iconic items, or to have defined propaganda as always bad. And what we've done is that we've said, actually, it's not always bad, and in certain types of societies it's as important as it is in the states that we seem to be being really good at it, so the totalitarian states like Germany, Soviet Union, etc. But actually within democracies it plays as powerful a role. I'd like them to find bits of it funny. I'd like, wry smiles, funny smiles, horror. So all of those things, really.